The Chicago Bears have found themselves in a bidding war for the number 1 pick in the draft. Hello, everyone. I'm Andy here with Chicago Bears React, bringing you all of the Chicago Bears news you're seeking out both during the season and now in the off season. Before we dive into today's story, please take a moment, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Make sure you don't miss anything coming. The next couple of months are going to be a roller coaster. You won't want to miss a thing. Now, there's been a lot of speculation, to say the least, coming out from one Colin Cowherd over the last few days regarding Caleb Williams. We're not going to go into too much detail on everything, but he did mention a couple of days ago that Caleb, or at least Caleb's dad, doesn't want Caleb in Chicago. He then had to walk that back one day later when Caleb's own people called Colin Cowherd and said, no, please don't say that. We're totally cool with Chicago, because why wouldn't he be? Chicago's a world-class city. Chicago is a city full of passionate fans. Chicago is going to have a better infrastructure to surround Caleb than any team likely to pick in the top 10. And so, you know, it seemed silly at the time. I didn't even want to cover that story because it seemed to be completely outside of actual reality, and it turned out to be true. So, but Colin, in an attempt to, I don't know if it's save himself or what, but he showed up on 670 The Score in an interview to do a little bit more talking about the Chicago Bears. And he mentioned in this story, and I'm not going to play the clip, but he mentioned that according to his sources at USC, there have been 5 teams not named Chicago that have called USC to do deep background checks on Caleb Williams, and those teams are preparing to make offers for the number 1 pick in the draft, which is wild. 5 different teams, and that's that we know about. Those are teams that have already reached out to USC. There undoubtedly could be more. You've even got, some teams that could be in that mix that are still getting their front offices in place. Teams like Washington, teams like the Raiders, who, like, their GMs just got settled in. It's entirely plausible that we could be looking at more than 5 teams. And so we could kind of speculate a little bit if you take a look at kind of who's in the draft. This is just from a random mock draft, but Washington's a team that I think would be interested. The Patriots would be a team, the Giants perhaps, the Falcons for sure, perhaps the Jets. I think that would be a little bit of a stretch for them. I think the Broncos, there's been a lot of smoke surrounding Sean Payton in particular. And there's an interesting clip actually from the Herd with Colin Cowherd, where last year Sean Payton predicted that the NFL was going to have to do a lottery system after this season because the team's tanking just to get Caleb. He thought Caleb was that special. And now, Sean Payton is the coach and a very powerful coach at that for the Denver Broncos. I think it's very likely they're one of the teams. The Raiders could be a potential team, and from there, I think probably, these are teams that would be less likely, maybe Pittsburgh. But the point being, there's a big bidding war. And I wanted to bring this up because I think a lot of Bears fans are going to look at that. They're going to look at what Tom Pelissero shared just the other day, which is that it would take multiple first-round picks just to trade up from number 2 if you're Washington. The haul you could get for that number 1 pick is going to be immense. And I think a lot of Bears fans are looking at that and they're saying, that's why we should trade the pick and keep Fields. And the thing that this is hard to hear, but it's really easy to play armchair quarterback. It's really easy to, as a fan, be invested enough that you look at Justin, you look at Caleb, and you think like, the difference might be like this big. Like let's get all this capital for Caleb and keep building. I think it's pretty arrogant when NFL fans come to the conclusion that most GMs aren't really that great at their job, that most scouts aren't great at their job. And the fact that all of these teams are calling about Caleb, not Justin. They're calling about Caleb should tell you everything you need to know. The question the question we shouldn't be asking here is why shouldn't we trade the pick? The question we should be asking is, why is it worth that much to teams? If a team is willing to get rid of 3 first-round picks and 3 second-round picks and maybe even throw in a player just to move up, you have to ask yourself, wait, why? Why is that a possibility? I saw one out there on the internet. It was something like 3 first-round picks, a second-round pick, Patrick Surtain, and Jerry Jeudy. And I looked at that and I'm like, that's an insane trade package. But if there are people who think that that's actually a comparable value to Caleb Williams, we have to ask ourselves, is Justin even in the same stratosphere as Caleb Williams? Personally, I don't think so. I just, as much as I love Justin, as much as I want to see him succeed, as much as I hope wherever he goes after this, he ends up finding a way to be the star quarterback we think he can be. I just think Caleb's going to be that much better. This many NFL insiders, this many NFL GMs, this many NFL scouts can't all be this wrong. That's just maybe that's just completely ignorant, but from where I'm sitting, I think we should be looking at this and we should be thanking David Tepper and the Carolina Panthers for being such a terrible franchise, so we could have the rights to Caleb Williams, because I really do think he is going to be him. So let me know what you think. The comments are open. Please let me know. Do you think he's going to be everything people say? Do you think he's going to be a letdown? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, bear down.